Hello everyone, my name is Jordan, also known as X-3. Today I'm going to be teaching you 3 different synths since it's still a little bit of Triple Threat Thursday. For the first synth I'm going to show you guys how to make is called Mr.Mau5. Mr.Mau5 is a Pluck synth and gives you a lot of progressive feedback if you implement it in a lot of different EDM styles and genres. So I'm gonna play this demo for you guys and I'm gonna show you guys how to make Mr.Mau5. Alright, so what I'm basically going to be doing for you guys is just providing you guys the main synth, so that way you guys can work with the synth and implement it into your mix. I realized that by fixing a few harmonics that actually might muddy up your mix. So instead I'm gonna just show you guys how to create the synth, and then that's basically it. So throw in a combinator and throw in subtractor. In order to get kind of like that plucky sound, we're going to be making use of the filter envelope, and we're going to use the LFO to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to my oscillators, then we're going to work through the filter, and then we'll tidy up on some automation on the filter 1 and some amp envelope stuffness. So the first thing that I want to do is turn on my second oscillator, and I'm going to turn it on to a positive algorithm, this little X right here. And then what I'm going to do is turn up my semi on this oscillator to 7. So now we already have a 2-note chord, so that works really well with EDM. If you want, all you have to do is set your filter on low pass 24, turn your keyboard up all the way, and set the filter quite low, about 16 or so. 38 should work since you can actually hear the pluck better. So the LFO 1 is actually going to be turned on to sync. You're going to set the amount halfway, so that way it plucks every once in a while, and we're going to turn it on filter frequency. For the rate, we're going to set this to 1/8. And for the amp envelope, just turn up your decay and sustain up all the way. You can turn up your release a little bit if you want a little bit of ringing rather than just a short stop. So now you can notice with Mr.Mau5 we have a little bit more wobbling. If you want to create that automation, just create it for your filter 1 frequency. So now if I draw in like a blank note and just make sure the filter frequency just rises, that's just to give you an idea of how the synth should behave. Just gonna drop it on C or whatever, and you should start to hear it build. Okay, I'll see you in a second for part 2. Alright, so here is the Wacky bass line in action. Okay, for Wacky bassline, we throw in a combinator, and we throw in Thor. The Wacky bassline is actually supposed to be played on lower notes, but I actually had them play higher notes. So those are just some of the simple notes that I had on handy, so you're going to start to hear the bass on the very lower side, depending on how you want it. So the synth for this is actually extremely simple. All you do is take down your filter frequency, your first filter frequency, down to somewhere around 200. You want to turn up your amp envelope up to 64 halfway, and your resonance you leave there. Turn on your shaper, and we're going to set this to sine and turn the drive wet to about 12. If you listen to what happens with the drive and I turn it up any more than what it's set at. So the reason why I have it set on sine is so that way it kind of ring modulates itself, and it ring modulates the signal with just a regular sine. So I thought that was pretty cool to give it some more warmth. And if you want this synth to be absolutely prominent, you take the mixer from the 1/2 balance all the way back down to 0. So that's a little bit fatter. For our source sounds, we want to choose actually I want to mess with this last. So one of the things you want to do with your amp envelope is set your sustain all the way up. And for the filter frequency, I want to take my decay down to about 256. So we get more of that wackiness and the pitch starts to come in. For the final 3 steps for this synth, turn on your chorus, set your delay about 2 milliseconds, somewhere in there. Turn on your, for the chorus. That's where you want the delay to be. Leave the dry wet where it is. It's going to make this synth very wide. Take your time and make sure to turn it off tempo sync for the delay. Make sure it's on. Time, you want to set that down like, I don't know, like 17 seconds or somewhere around that area to give it the nice width. You want to take down the dry wet so it doesn't ring out too much, so somewhere around 12. Perfect. The last source I want to choose is go over to your mod bus. You want to choose your oscillator 1, and the destination needs to be your filter 1 frequency, FM, or frequency modulation, and the amount you want to set that to 46. It just kind of mutes the sound a little bit, but that is your wacky bass. So I'll see you guys here in a little bit for your third and final synth. Alright, for this synth, it's actually more of an effect rather than a synth. I would call this Broken Bonnie because it sounds like the Five Nights at Freddy. There's one of the characters that just kind of glitches out during the first game, and that's Bonnie. And when she's during like the first cam, starting to get closer on like the first or second level, she'll start to like glitch out. And I like that sound, but I want to create it kind of like an effect. So I kind of created that with this synth. Check it out and I'll teach you guys how to make it. Okay, so the way to create the Broken Bonnie bass is actually a very timed random waveform. So we're gonna create a combinator and make everything nice and tidy. Sweet. Then we're gonna throw in a maelstrom. Maelstrom is perfect for getting those grits or getting the types of basses that only repeat vocal cords and things like that. Maelstrom is great for getting the very finite details to make something very different. It takes all the grains, meaning it takes all the bits of a waveform and it breaks it down into those bits so that way we can start to mess with each individual bit. It's a little bit complex, but this synth will give you a better explanation than what I could tell you. So what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to be messing with my oscillators and my mod A. That's basically it. We don't turn on the shaper. In fact, you can turn off the filters. They aren't going to be needed. The first synth we're going to mess with is called a Jew's Harp. good for getting those wacky sounds, but still have more clarity, kind of like a saw mixed in with a mouth harp. So I'm going to take my motion down, so we get a static note, and I'm going to throw it up all the way. It sounds a little bit muted, but I want to take it down at least all the way to octave 1. It's very low and rumbling because it's struggling to play that note at this frequency. So that's why it kind of struggles. But what I'm going to do for my mod A is that I'm going to throw on sync, and I'm going to turn up the right all the way to 132. And I'm also going to set this to the random waveform. I'm not sure. It's curve 6 for the random waveform. So right now this mod A really isn't doing much, but what I'm going to do is hit tab to flip it over. And this is where you can start routing a lot of the different options. So in case mod A doesn't mess with anything, you can always make mod A go towards the index, and now automatically play this mod A's right over the index of all my synths. And that's where kind of like the random jumbleness I got for the Bonnie's ARP. But I wanted to make it a little bit darker. So you know what I did? I turned on my second oscillator, and instead of sine, I turned it to Jew's harp again. But this time I took all of it down, all of the octaves, take it to like 0. And you want to take your motion all the way down, and you want to throw it all the way to the far right. What this does is that, actually, just hear what Jew's harp sounds at 0, and then we're going to play the Jew's harp over this, the first Jew's harp. It got louder, but it still got a little bit sharper in with the sound. If you want, this is totally optional. You can make sure that both of your oscillators route to filter B, and you want to make sure this route to filter B, the shaper, is turned on, so that way it can be routed to filter A. Turn it on, set your type to comb negative, and you want your frequencies somewhere around 40, and turn on your keyboard follow knob. This will give it a little bit more metallic, but I like it just plain because it sounds more authentic. You also have to remember these are keys, and this is kind of like a effect. This is not supposed to be made to play continuously, since it basically, this waveform is just random all the time, so it's not going to sync in with your music unless you have it as an effect. So I want to say thank you guys so much for following me. I'm going to be checking you guys out tomorrow for Info Friday, and yeah, I hope you guys have a good one, and I guess hit a like if you like this video. It helps me out a lot, and yeah, I'll check you guys out later for another crazy synth. Have a good one, and peace. Hey everyone, it's Jordan here. Sorry for the late post again. Just got out of work, and right now I'm just going to eat, and after that I'll be posting your video. So yeah, thanks for joining me. These past few days have been kind of tough, and I will still try to do my best and create awesome content for you guys. So yeah, I hope you guys have a good one and a better day than what I had. Peace.